Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Sasol New Signatures Visual Arts Competition Information Session. Uh, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, these are recordings that we have put together to assist potential entrants of the competition and also those that have previously entered or are possibly waiting to find out if you've made it into the final round or if you're going to be a winner. If you are in the final round, these info sessions are really designed to help you understand the competition a bit better, but also to have a general conversation and discussion around the importance of this platform and how you can really leverage it for the advancement of your creative career. So today I have my colleague, Kate Blanche, who is
Hi,
the
everyone.
curator of the Sasol Art Collection. And we also have a special guest with us, MJ Khan, who is let me get it right, head of Group Digital Communication at Sasol Limited. Thank you so much for joining us, MJ.
Hey, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Great to be here on this podcast and this info session. Looking forward to talking more about today's topic.
Awesome, awesome. So for today, we are going to focus very briefly on the importance of online platforms and how you can leverage those for your career advancement. And perhaps it's worthwhile just starting off, Kate, thinking about artists in general, the nature of artists, visual artists especially. I do understand that performing artists would have maybe a slightly different personality type than visual artists, but traditionally visual artists, very introverted individuals, kind of keep to themselves, work individually in their studios for weeks and months, and then occasionally will be seen or spotted at an opening of an exhibition or when they give a guided tour of their work. But yeah, Kate, times are changing. Artists have to put themselves out there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think the big thing is that there is this wonderful world out there, this digital world, that can actually be something that can help or hinder an artist's career. And it's really wonderful that we've got MJ with us here today. MJ is also part of the organizing team for Sasol New Signatures, and he's been with us a number of years already. So he's seen exactly what kind of impact this digital footprint and, managing your digital presence, how that can really affect, careers. So thank you so much for joining us, MJ. And maybe you can just give us your impressions of how artists actually do, sort of approach this, and, where we can maybe think of improving our approaches.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kate and Funzo. And I think for me, it always starts with, and sometimes this is a quote attributed to Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I think about that. And I think about us in this age now of personal branding, where if you search for someone and they don't appear on Google, they typically don't exist because their digital footprint isn't sort of articulated or mature. And there's a really great opportunity for us as content creators, as artists, as professionals. Because when we speak about artists here, we're going to speak about artists in a very professional sense. How do you use art to propel a career within the art, right? So that's part of what we're talking about is how do you ensure that you curate an online presence that does justice to your offline experience? So often when I talk to colleagues, I say, cool, you have all this great amount of experience or opportunities that are present offline. How do you tap into all those fantastic opportunities online? And when we talk about visual arts, we're really looking about networking opportunities, opportunities to collaborate, opportunities to share, opportunities to build a community, and to find like-minded visual artists. So if you have a very specific niche in terms of your art style, How do you connect with other like-minded artists, build community camaraderie online? And that is really where we see some of the benefits. So as you mentioned, Kate, I've been involved in the competition for over a decade. Really, really proud. And to be able to witness all the different artists over the years who've been able to take that really strong offline brand of theirs, or even emerging offline brand, because not everyone starts so strong. Some people will start off with one follower who's their mum, and that's great. Others will start off with 100, and really take that and translate it online. And we see the artists who do that successfully, how they are given opportunities, they're able to profile, and their visibility increases. And that's what we're hoping to do with the competition. It is really a platform for emerging artists to shine. And if you look at the Sasol brand itself, it's such a strong brand online. We've got, for example, the largest corporate page, LinkedIn corporate page in Africa. Over 100 million people see Sasol's content every single month across our platforms. 70 million TikTok views. So imagine that platform, imagine that catalyst, that fire that we can bring with our platforms just to sort of amplify and boost all of the artists that are involved in Sasol New Signatures. So for me, it's a great opportunity. As I said at the start, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. For those artists who perhaps it pushes them outside their comfort zone because they might not necessarily be used to sharing, or as Funzo said, they might be sort of naturally inclined to be introverted. Those artists as well, the beautiful thing about social media is you can build it, and digital presence is you build it at your own pace and your own comfort levels. And I think right now the opportunity really is how do you build and grow, not how do you sort of see this opportunity move past you. And again, not just for the finalists, for anyone who's watching this, who's thinking about entering, who does enter. And again, we're getting great work from around the country, but even if you don't, even if you want to sort of build a catalog, there's still a great opportunity for you to use this to start documenting what you're doing, sharing what you're doing, and build that personal brand.
So, there's so much that you've said there that I would like to pick up on, but the point that I think the last point around the pace with which artists can actually choose to have this online presence, I think for me is important. Kate, you would know this, that uh, for an artist to be known, they were always dependent on someone else reporting about them, right? So a journalist comes, interviews them, and then writes about their work, and then of course their profile appears in a newspaper, whatever platform, or an art historian writes a book about the artist or an article about the artist. So it was always dependent on someone else giving you that platform. But it seems, based on what you've said, MJ, here, there's a bit of an opportunity for the artist to take agency around these processes and and actually dictate terms of how they would like to be seen online.
Definitely, and that's a fantastic sort of segue into talking about visibility and also how the traditional models of power have shifted. So historically, you would need some interface, whether that interface is a media personality, a radio station, a news journalist who write for a newspaper to tell your story. Whereas with digital, you're really empowered to own your narrative, to own your story, and to curate it in a way that hasn't been possible before. Digital itself allows you to transcend sort of geographical borders. It allows you to transcend your physical spaces. And I think that's really the wonderful opportunity, whether you're an artist who's emerging, whether you already see yourself as a brand, because we all are brands, or whether you have partnerships, associations, or aspirations to become a brand. There's never the wrong time to start except now. Now you should start and you should keep pushing. So it really is an exciting time for artists. And I must build on that as well. As we talk about artists venturing online, it really is less about becoming fixated on how many followers you can get in the short term or anything like that. I want to encourage artists, fixate on being consistent. So publish often, share, figure out your niche. Think about what it is that you want to be associated with your online profile. Be very clear about it. I had lots of opportunities to talk to artists over the past few years. In fact, I spoke to some great artists yesterday at the launch of the Enduring Signatures exhibition. And when I spoke to them about Instagram, what really came through as well is they were very intentional about their Instagram accounts encompassing their art. So making that part of that brand, and again, it doesn't have to be the artist's entire brand, you know. What we're seeing in terms of trends is an artist could have, for example, an Instagram account just for their art, and then they develop a following and a community around that. And perhaps if they have another interest, they could create another like-based interest. There's no rule that says you just have to have one profile that represents you. So it really is an exciting time, especially for visual artists with the advent of visual mediums like TikTok, like Instagram. There's no better time than now.
So, Indra, I'd like to just hop in here quickly. And, there's so many different platforms. You just mentioned TikTok, Instagram, there's LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is one of those very underrated platforms for artists, but we can chat about that if we've got a little bit of time. But so, how do you actually, as an artist, how do you choose where you're going to be and how you're going to spend your time? Because it takes a lot of time to create your posts and to manage your social media. So what would your suggestions be in terms of platforms and managing their time?
So like anything in life, you play to strengths. You play to your strengths in terms of what your styles are and how what your comfort levels are, and you play to a platform strength. So if you look at, and then let's sort of zoom in South Africa specifically, right? Because again, competition for South Africans. So let's look at what does really well in South Africa. The visual platforms that excel, Instagram. We find that Instagram is a really great platform because it allows you to express yourself visually, both with regards to videos as well as images, build community there. Instagram also has great functionality where you can collaborate with other artists, especially when you perhaps need a small push or your comfort levels aren't there yet. It always helps to find another artist that can help support you, nudge you along, and then collaborate and play off each other. Sometimes that really helps, especially when you're sort of navigating uncharted territory. So Instagram's a really popular platform. TikTok is absolutely blowing up globally, but specifically in South Africa. So the sort of content that does really well on TikTok is content that documents an artist's journey. So within hashtag artist talk, you've got artists who share their thought processes, who talk about um, the sort of the craft and the development of art, and that does really well. You've also got opportunities to showcase work. And I think these are platforms that are often very positive in nature, where you're going to get a lot of support, you're going to get a lot of encouragement. There are other platforms as well some of the artists use, but they don't have as much sort of relevance anymore. So I'll mention them slightly, but I wouldn't suggest that an emerging artist feels that they need to be everywhere and have to have a presence in every single platform. Rather choose a few. So to your point, Kate, it does take a bit of effort to manage it. But if you put in a framework in place, then it becomes much easier to manage and it becomes fun. We don't want artists to feel like this is overwhelming and daunting and create more anxiety for an artist. We want them to know that this is a great space where you can have fun, you can share, and you can also be a little bit vulnerable. I think it's important as artists to also have these platforms. So a platform like Twitter or X these days, not so great for art anymore. When we're seeing dwindling numbers, we're seeing that there's also rising levels of toxicity on that platform. So if you're an artist just starting out, I would recommend Instagram is great, TikTok is great. If you're doing a lot of long form content, YouTube is popular around the world. In South Africa, I find that it's really popular for more long form content. So if you want to take your followers through a journey, if you want to do more of the tutorial side, if you want to maybe unpack some of the industry, so more sort of academic focused, long form content, YouTube tends to work well. And when people ask me about Facebook, I say, look, if there's no additional effort to have Facebook, and if your family members are there and they want to support you, then that's always great as well. I think sometimes we want to build a massive following immediately, whereas we know that one or two really dedicated, passionate people that support you is more than you need at this point. So, for any artist starting out, my suggestion is consider your art style, consider your niche, consider the type of content you like sharing, and then look at a platform that supports that. And currently, we find Instagram is great. TikTok is great. Oh, and you
Can
did
I?
mention LinkedIn. I actually want to jump in on LinkedIn very quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
So LinkedIn's wonderful for two very specific reasons. The first space it's wonderful is because it helps you with your own search engine optimization. So when people Google your name, your LinkedIn results come up, and it adds that bit of professional credibility to what you do. But number two, speaking of that professional credibility as well, art as a profession in terms of connecting where maybe it's something around galleries, or maybe it's around art buyers, or building a professional brand. And I think this also leans in more for the entrants that have maybe a formal education background. It does help, it does enhance, because the moment you have your alumni network set up on LinkedIn, all of your fellow graduates have access to what you're doing. As long as you set up, your professional network, LinkedIn, we've seen amazing things in South Africa. Yeah, so some of the platforms to consider.
I absolutely agree with you about LinkedIn. I've seen a number of artists actually connect in different ways with different organizations, which they wouldn't have done if it wasn't for that LinkedIn platform. So I can highly recommend that. Yes, absolutely.
So you mentioned something earlier as we draw to a conclusion. I think this has been a really instructive session, more so for me. I'm not on social media, actually, I should. But part of the reason this kind of points to or leads into the question that I want to ask is the separation between you. The last point you just made now is that the artist as a profession. And earlier you mentioned how artists are very intentional about making their work available online. And yet, of course, we do know that uh, at a very fundamental level, most of these platforms, outside perhaps of LinkedIn, most of these platforms are meant for kind of yourself as an individual, right? Your kind of personal life. How do artists negotiate that perhaps blurry boundary between now I'm producing content that really just speaks to me as a person, my interests, my preferences, and oh, here I'm on holiday, whatever it may be, versus um, material that speaks to their more professional disposition. Because I often, yeah, find that balance quite interesting to see how artists are managing it. Do you have any thoughts on that? On how do they have to have separate pages, one for their art and then one for their private life? How do artists negotiate this?
That's an excellent question. It actually speaks to generational preferences. So, sort of elder millennials like myself, I used to having one sort of consolidated presence, and in there you sort of share your various interests. Whereas what I'm noticing with younger generations, they have multiple accounts and are able to navigate and juggle them. So there's accounts built around niche and common interests, as opposed to accounts built around personality. And typically, what you see is the niche accounts, or the art accounts would be public, the individual's account would be private. So that's how privacy is sort of maintained, while still leveraging the public accessibility of profile. So take a platform like Instagram. Last I checked, you can have up to 5 Instagram accounts on your phone, and you can switch between them. So it also depends on the nature of the audience. If you want to attract people who perhaps fit in a few different buckets, maybe you can combine those, right? So maybe I've got an interest in tech and communication, and I'm able to service both audiences in a way that still adds enough value both ways without sort of diluting one or the other. Then have both. But again, as I said earlier, that's very much a sort of an elder generation thinking, where you have one curated presence. And the trends we're seeing now is very intentional, very dedicated presence for each of the different niches. So I've got friends like that as well, who have different interests, and for each of their interests, they will have a different profile. And again, those profiles can get marketed to, for example, to organizations, to partners and stuff like that, because there's no dilution of what the interest of the niche is. And a lot of artists are doing that, and I recommend it. I also think it's a good way, especially for those artists who are sort of have a little bit of anxiety about social media, is just have an account dedicated to your art. It gives you focus. It allows you to curate it a bit better because you know what you need to work on, and then it doesn't sort of, it's not something where you need to chop and change because either your anxiety or your relationship status changes, or maybe you don't want to put your whole life out there. So I think that does work these days.
Yeah.
Have multiple profiles.
Yeah, that's extremely valuable, and it is something that it would be great that from kind of the get-go of your journey, your professional journey as an artist, that you start making these key decisions around how you are going to either merge or separate. So in closing, Kate, perhaps you can just remind our audience of the amazing website that we have, which has just recently been redesigned, and the content that we have on there, which will include this recording and other recordings that we've done in the past, as a really one-stop gateway into the world of this amazing competition.
Yes, our website has actually been revamped, and it's got a beautiful, fresh new look. I would really encourage everyone to go and have a look at our website, engage with all the resources that are there, but also to follow us on social media. And, MJ, we've just got a new specific channel for Sasol New Signatures, which is so exciting. So maybe you can just finish off our conversation with a little bit of your thoughts on that.
Definitely. I think, firstly, on the website side, really proud of my team who put together a fantastic website. So shout out to Letha and Mtungwa for driving that. Oh, my little kiddo is in the back. And when it comes to social media as well, yeah, please, we hashtag Sasol New Signatures across all platforms. So whether you're on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, we've got you. And the great thing about hashtag Sasol New Signatures is if you click on that, you're going to see over a decade's worth of really rich content where we're celebrating winners, finalists, pieces of work that resonate, timeless work. So that's the first thing, is have a look at that hashtag. And then secondly, we've got a dedicated Instagram account, which is at Sasol New Signatures. Please follow us. If you're an artist, we're going to follow you back. We're going to give you love. We're going to collaborate. So yeah, join us on those platforms, as well as all the Sasol platforms, which are on the website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, MJ, for your time and for sharing that valuable insight with us and the artists. And we will see you the next time for the next recording. Our next session will really look into professional practice within the visual arts. And of course, this does include online presence. So I'm glad that we've covered that element. But thank you so much. And for those of you who might be interested in entering the competition, just a reminder that on the 10th and the 11th of June, those are the submission dates for the 2025 edition of the competition. If you are listening to this post that date, we will obviously be doing the regional judging and looking forward to the presentation of the winner in September. Thank you so much for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks, MJ. Thanks, Vinzo.
Cheers, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.